Hey all, this is Thoren on behalf of Rose City Sorcery, bringing you another casual game from SorceryCon 2026. This game, we've got Frankie on Pathfinder versus Brendan on Waveshaper. It's like Frankie's going to just go ahead and start with activating Pathfinder and getting a desert out. And then early watery grave from Brendan. So that could be kind of cool if Frankie's going to come on over to Brendan's side and start playing minions. Might make some skeletons for Brendan, but we'll see how it plays out. A little bit of context for this game. We are currently playing at SorceryCon 2026. This is not part of a competitive event. This is just a nice for fun game. It's always the reminder that these events, while they can be competitive, there's just a lot of people jamming games for fun. I think this is probably on day 2 of the limited championship, so a lot of people, kind of got knocked out from the big things, and there were just a lot of people jamming games for fun, getting ready for constructed day 1. So I'm pretty sure that's when this happened. So it looks like we're seeing a fire earth Pathfinder instead of the mono fire Pathfinder that we're used to seeing out of Frankie. Very early Searing Truth. And Frankie's going to opt to target himself. Hits. I can't quite tell what the other card is, but I see an Archangel Samael, so that's going to be 5 damage to draw 2 cards. Not the worst trade in the world, but definitely hurts a little bit more than maybe you're hoping for. Brendan's got the early Thin Ice out. That's what you want when you're on water. Even if you don't have the Nixie or anything like that, it's still just a great defensive site as long as you can, make it so that's the only option for your opponents to really get into. But when you're playing against that Pathfinder, you've got to make sure that they don't come over and just make everything weird on your end and mess up how you plan on playing your sites. So Brendan opts to play a pond to kind of cut off that path for the Pathfinder and plays a Shelly Coat, which is a pretty cool 2-drop that you don't get to see a whole lot of. Kind of reminiscent of your Tufted Turtles or whatnot. Got that pretty promo art of Color Out of Space coming out. We love seeing that. And then the Shelly Coat gets eaten by the spider, so currently disabled. And they just counted the threshold because, Frankie's on Pathfinder, so when you see Pathfinder, you expect a mono element for consistency's sake, and somehow manages to get an on-curve Gargantula out with the Fertile Earth and the Color Out of Space comprising of the 3 Earth threshold needed to play that Gargantula. So that's pretty dang good. It's a gnarly start. Definitely a little lucky if you're playing that greedy threshold, because we've seen Archangel Samael, which is 4 fire threshold, and Gargantula, which is 3 earth threshold. So pretty bold deck building choices when you don't really know what you're going to get. And I think we're also looking at Frankie's collection. I think we can see a Divine Healing in there. So definitely some crazy stuff. We got Imperial Road coming down on Brendan's side. Which is funny because Pathfinder can't play sites out of hand. But Brendan also doesn't have a site to play out of hand, which is a little unfortunate. But at least cuts off that path again. Frankie's got all those promos. We've got the beautiful Warhorse promo coming out. And then taps to flip that site into a forge. So we've got, instead of a Lance token, Frankie's flexing a little bit and puts down the foil Spear of Destiny to serve as the Lance. I think that's a pretty cool and fun flex to have. It was just like, I think this deck might be foiled out too. Is this just like the Super Whale Earth Fire Pathfinder? This is sweet. when I was given this video by Sam of Rose City Sorcery to commentate over, I was expecting, like, okay, you know, we're just warming up for SorceryCon Day 3 Constructed Tournament, and we're just going to have a standard mono fire Pathfinder versus the Waveshaper. I've seen Brendan play. I've played against Brendan before, so I kind of knew what's in store there. I definitely wasn't expecting a full foiled out, super swag Earth Fire Pathfinder. So this is a treat for both me as the commentator and you as the viewer. Pretty cool stuff. We've got the early Ennui Undyne out. Currently at 4 power. We definitely want to see that get a little bit higher, but once it does, we'll be able to come up and eat that Gargantula and start getting in some good beats. We've got a Forlorn Keep. So we've got a Knight out of the collection if Frankie opts to do that. He's on 6 mana, so it seems like it probably would be pretty good, but we don't know what's going on in Frankie's hand. Oh, so we've opted to not do the Penitent Knight and instead just play the Samael that we know is in Frankie's hand. It's going to cause some loss of life to Brendan there based on the number of evil in the realm and in cemeteries. The Warhorse is going to come over and pick up Samael. What are we using for ward tokens on Frankie's side here? Is that a Circle of Protection from the game that shall not be named? I think it is. This is a really cool flex forward deck on Frankie's end. I love to see this. So, like, one of my favorite things about Sorcery is, like, if you want to do the thing where you just build the sweatiest deck in the world, you can do that, and that's fine, and you're still going to have fun. But you can also do stuff like this where you build flavor forward decks, or you just play the cards that you like, and you're still going to have wins against those, you know, super meta, like I went online and looked at the top 8 deck lists and picked the thing that I thought looked the coolest. So, you know, you're cool, I homebrewed this deck is always going to have a fighting chance. I think that's really neat. So, Samael with that Circle of Protection, riding the Warhorse. Brendan's going to activate the Waveshaper ability and flood that color out of space. So that will bypass the ward because it targets the site, not the minion. So those guys aren't going to untap. And then Brendan's going to go ahead and dredge there to make 2 skeleton tokens on top of that color out of space. So now, unfortunately, since that Imperial Road is not a water site, we don't make our body of water bigger with the Ennui Undyne, because the pond and the flooded color out of space, color out of space would have contributed to body of water regardless, but it's not. So Ennui Undyne still at 4 power. Frankie plays Baylor. It's one of the bigger bads of Fire. With the semi-recent Codex update, Baylor is able to choose any region to deal that damage to. So, you know, if it shoots in a cardinal direction, it can deal 2 damage to a unit above the surface, go to the next site, and then choose something subsurface. So, you know, it can go and kill, let's say, a Warhorse, and if Frankie had a Root Spider that was burrowed, it would also be able to kill that. So that's a pretty strong card right now. Definitely one of the scarier fire cards that you can see an opponent play against you. Frankie gets in for 4 with the Gargantula as well. So we've got a pretty aggressive start coming out. But Waveshaper as an avatar generally is almost never going to be ahead early. So, you know, as long as we find our stabilization pieces, and are able to get a nice board wipe down, Brendan is definitely not out of this game. So Brendan's going to shapeshift a skeleton token, so this could be a pretty giant tempo swing. Could be a great old one, could be a Shelly coat, who knows? That's the fun of shapeshift, right? So let's see what we get off of this. I don't know if we're going to get to see the options, but not really, but that's okay. I hear Brendan saying trash, though, so I don't think he's particularly stoked about his options on the shapeshift, which is always sad to see, because when you resolve that great old one off the shapeshift, it's such a cool feeling. Oh, he does get a Lord of Unland, which is, like, certainly a real card. Unfortunately, Lord of Unland's Body of Water is just that color out of space, so he's not buffing anything right now, which is unfortunate. So, decides to submerge the Lord of Unland, which is safe from the Baylor because it has 3 power. So that's pretty good. Instead, gonna flood the Imperial Road, which is going to connect that Body of Water. Makes Undine a 6 power minion. We'll see if we can do anything with that. But while she's submerged, she can't really do a whole lot. And she doesn't really want to surface either. We've got some big threats on Frankie's side that I'm sure he would be okay with trading off on. So hope for maybe a Call to the Sea or, you know, an Atlantean Fate would go a super long way on Brendan's side. Especially when we've got Frankie finding the path over on to Brendan's side of the board. This is going to limit Brendan to probably at most 8 mana. And, you know, he has some 8 mana spells in his list, so that could get a little hairy. We'll see how that works out. So Baylor's going to attack the site. So now Brendan has the option that he can come up and trade with the Baylor and not go to Death's Door. He does decide to come up and trade that. So we've got Brendan at 4 with the Archangel Samael on his face. Oh, he plays the duel to door Brendan while also neutralizing the Undine. So that's a really cool play. And another thing that I really like about sorcery is that sequencing matters a whole lot. And when you decide to attack sites, so he, you know, puts Brendan within reach of door and then says, okay, I'm going to attempt to door you with Baylor. Obviously, Brendan's like, I don't want to go to door. He comes up, he blocks. They trade, which Frankie is happy about. And then Frankie was holding that duel the entire time, specifically knowing that he wants to get that Undine off of Brendan's side of the board, but then he can still door him. So, like, you know, if Brendan had, if Frankie had attacked with the Archangel and then dueled and then attacked with the Baylor, maybe he wouldn't have taken that bait. But then there's also the flip side of if he had done door that way, attacked with the Archangel, done the duel to the Waveshaper, he could have, in the next turn, just taken a step with Baylor and activated the ability, depending on if Brendan was going to move or not. However, it doesn't really matter. Frankie drops the Day of Judgment on Brendan's face. This is a really cool deck out of Frankie's side. A lot of swagged out pieces. Like I said, definitely surprised when you are playing against Pathfinder and you see not just mono fire. So playing both a Gargantula and an Archangel Samael, pretty crazy stuff. But really neat to see. I like it when people subvert the expectations a little bit and still just wind up with a really strong deck that can do a lot of things. So yeah, that was a really cool game. Thanks for joining us on that one, and we'll hope to see you for another match at Rose City Sorcery.